Okay, so part two is named individual long term. What does that mean? So in part one, if you can recall the practice session with Fiang, so Fiang was asking questions, and you were giving answers. So it's in a way, it's still a two-way, not a conversation, but it's a two-way thing, right? But here in part two, only you speaks. That was a stupid question. Sorry, stupid sentence. Only you get to talk, right? Or the examiner will not say anything in this part. And it's called, yeah, that's why it's called individual, right? Only the candidate is expected to talk. And it's called long term because in this session, in this part, your answer should last for maximum 2 minutes. And that's it, you know? So basically you should be able to tell a story and produce more language for your answer than in part one. And yeah, and they will do this by means of giving you a task card. Nó sẽ giám khảo sẽ cho mọi người một cái task card là một thẻ thẻ đề, right? You will get a question or a prompt, and then you will have different bullet points. Wait, I will show you here. This is an example of a task card. So this is, describe a teacher who has influenced you in your education. And then they give you some pointers as to what you can include in your answer. You should say where you met them, what subject they taught, what was special about them. And then last one, explain why this person influenced you so much. Okay, so you can see, so you get the prompt and then you get different suggestions on how to build your answer. And that's it, right? So it looks different. Now, what do you think? Do you think that you will be able to perform in this part better than part one or no?
Mm. Yeah, I think uh n- not not confident of that because I think this part make me more I think longer than the task one because we have 2 minutes to talking about the specific topic, right? So we have so many maybe we need to make a story or make up a story or something like that related to this topic. Um, not depend, not really depends on their task card. We, yeah, I think we have to um make a story on my own, and that's a difficult one.
Yeah,
Uh,
it is indeed more difficult. And that's also the reason why I'm not sure if I mentioned this. I think I did. That's why usually in a IELTS speaking test, the examiner can determine your overall score after part two,
mm,
you know? Because after this part, yeah, you you sh- you would have shown the examiner kind of like um but basically your overall competence when it comes to speaking English. And part three is for more ambitious candidates or higher level candidates who wish to even, raise their score even further higher after they finish with part two. But usually after part two, you will get the score already. Okay, so that's why it's very important, and it's kind of like the like a lock, like a most important point, I think, for me, in IELTS speaking. And that's why we need specific strategies, right? But yeah, but the task card always looks like this, okay? So there is a prompt, and then there is a prompt or question. And then after that, you will get the suggestions. So some bullet points, suggestions on how to yeah, extend on your ideas. Okay. Yeah, so here you have four different points where you met them, what subject they taught, what was special about them, explain why this person influenced you so much. Okay. All right. Um, okay, so because obviously the format is different from part one, so the strategy should also be different. Um, okay, okay, so it's a monologue. By now, you, I think, both know what a monologue is, right? Jilin, can you help me remind? What is a monologue?
One person and keep
Exactly.
speaking.
Yeah, monologue is like a one woman or a one man show, right? Only one person gets to talk. And yeah, so the examiner will not interrupt or jump in. And there's a time limit to this, okay? Which means in the real test, the examiner will take out a timer and he or she will look at the timer, but you will not get to see the timer, okay? So that's why when you practice for this part, you need to get used to telling a story within the 2 minutes limit without getting to look at the clock. So yeah, it's a skill. All right. And in the test, after the 2 minutes end, the examiner will stop you. Okay, maximum 2 minutes. Tức là không cần thiết phải nói đủ, xin lỗi, nói cả 2 phút. Ở trong task card nó sẽ ghi là bạn có thể bạn bạn nên nói từ 1 đến 2 phút. But actually you should speak for 2 minutes because that's how you give them more language, right? Cũng giống như là part 1 thôi, đấy là mình phải cho bản thân nhiều cơ hội nhất có thể, đúng không? Để có đất để mà phô từ, phô các thứ ra. Thì với cái part 2 này vì nó là maximum 2 phút thì mình sẽ tận dụng tối đa cả 2 phút đấy. Nha. Và we can see that we only get one chance to talk in part two, right? It's not like in part one where we get different questions, right? If we do not very well in one question, maybe in the next one we can kind of improve. But here you only get one chance. That's why you need to practice even more for part two. And yeah, and you get to speak only one time, and also the length is much longer, right? It's much longer than the answer in part one. Okay. Da, da, da,
So the
da.
examiner stop me after 2 minutes.
Yes. Nếu mà chưa nói xong thì giám khảo sẽ vẫn ngắt. Chính vì thế nên là phải lúc ở nhà phải luyện để xem, để mà bản thân tự tự contain bản thân xem là mình nên nói như thế nào, với tốc độ như thế nào, và nói nó cũng kiểu như viết ấy, tự ước lượng xem là 2 phút thì mình sẽ nói tầm bao nhiêu câu, mình tự cảm nhận thôi. Để mà lúc mà đi thi thật không bị giám khảo ngắt giữa giữa chừng, bởi vì có thể lúc mà giám khảo ngắt là mình đang mới chỉ nói đến đoạn giữa chẳng hạn, chưa nói đoạn cuối chẳng hạn, thì yeah, we shouldn't do that. Okay, so the point of practice is to help you yeah, just limit yourself in this 2 minute frame, and make sure that you can produce good answers, right? Đấy, nói chung lúc nào nó cũng sẽ bắt đầu với một cái prompt, right? Prompts can be in different forms. The candidates will be given some time to make yeah, this is also the last point, the last difference between part one and two. In part one, you don't get to prepare, right? You don't get to think in advance, and then you have to produce answers kind of impromptu, like on the spot. But here for number four, sorry, for part two, the candidate must prepare his or her answer in 1 minute, và mỗi thí sinh sẽ được phát một tờ giấy, đúng không? Sẽ được take note vào cái tờ giấy đấy để note lại. Thì cái mà chúng ta học trong buổi hôm nay sẽ là cái kỹ năng take note này. What we should write down so that we can perform our best in the 2 minutes, in the real 2 minutes talk, right? Đấy. Thì đây là một số những cái sự khác biệt giữa part 1 và part 2. Okay. Introduction to individual long-term tasks. Okay, so some rules of thumb as well. Yeah, as I said, you should always remember that there is a specific time limit to this. So at home, it's even more recommended to record yourself, right? Because you know yourself best and you spend the most time with yourself. So yeah, so just try practicing part two questions and try to adjust your speed according to this 2 minute frame. Number two, you get 1 minute to prepare. And when you take notes in this 1 minute, remember that your notes should be brief. Okay. It yeah, should be very, very brief. Never write in full sentences because we don't have time for that. And specifically in terms of how to write to make good notes, I will mention that later in the session. Và bởi vì là đã có thời gian để mà make note, thế nên là trong lúc mà nói thật ấy thì nhớ là phải phải nhìn lại nốt. Có rất nhiều người là kiểu trong 1 phút chuẩn bị thì take nốt xong rồi đến lúc nói quên mất quên mất là mình đã nốt, thế là trong lúc nói cứ nói linh tinh thôi, hoặc là
Well, look.
kiểu yeah. Well, I'm not saying that that's bad. However, I mean, there's a reason why they gave you 1 minute to prepare in advance, right? So yeah, so yeah, so always try to refer to your notes. Và chính vì thế nên là trong cái lúc mà chuẩn bị như thế này thì chúng ta sẽ chuẩn bị cái việc là làm nào um, để làm những cái nốt, mặc dù là nó có 1 phút thôi rất ngắn, nhưng mà làm ra được những cái nốt mà nó helpful nhất. Right? Cái này nó cũng sẽ liên quan đến khả năng note taking giống như lúc học listening, nhưng mà đây không có cái gì để nghe cả, chỉ là mình sẽ recall lại là mình muốn dùng những từ như thế nào trong lúc mình nói thật để mà impress giám khảo. Right? Thì mình sẽ ghi xuống, bởi vì là trong lúc mình nói có thể mình sẽ bị quên mất, thì nhưng mà đấy, trong lúc mà mình có thời gian chuẩn bị này thì mình sẽ ghi xuống. Right? Yeah. And so remember that you get to keep looking back at your note when you speak to the examiner. However, do not like just uh, purely just focus, on the notes and never looking at the examiner. That's not a good thing to do. You should still keep eye contact with the person in front of you. However, like sometimes, right, you can keep like, yeah, changing your eye direction to the notes so that you can remind yourself of what you want to say. So just keep it casual, keep it not casual, but as comfortable as possible, right? And always think of your notes as your friend, as something who's that's there to help you, okay? And yeah. Nhưng mà bởi vì nó vẫn là một cái communication với giám khảo nên là vẫn phải giữ eye contact, không không đừng kiểu cắm mặt vào giấy để nhìn. Okay. Fourth thing, what if the examiner asks about something you haven't experienced in life before? Right? So yeah, same with part one, right? They don't care. Okay, nobody cares. Nobody cares who you are in IELTS. Nobody cares. So yeah, if the prompt looks very weird, very strange, and very like, what the fuck is this? Don't fret. Okay, don't be scared. Just make something up. Okay. Yeah, you can make it up by narrating an experience that your friend has had, but not you, but you have heard about it, for example, right? So just make something up and produce the language that they are looking for. Okay, so that's it. These are the do's, okay, things that you should do, and in terms of the don'ts, things that you should not apply in this part. Never speak fast. Okay. There is a tendency for students or for candidates to, try to impress the examiner as much as I can in this 2 minutes, and so they stress themselves out, and they yeah, and it gets too much, and it actually would be counterproductive, phản tác dụng á, right? So try to speak at your normal pace. So the pace that you use for part one, you can apply that for part two. So yeah, don't try to impress the examiner too much. But at the same time, right? Number 6, do not speak too slowly. Okay. Because it is 2 minutes. If you have a lot of hesitation in your answer or pauses, right? That's not good, and it's going to reduce your score in fluency. And always, this is what I emphasize for all of the parts, not just part two, but never try to learn your answers by heart. Okay. Yeah. So when you practice, the point of practicing topics is not to memorize good answers, but to give you an idea of how you can go about answering the questions, right, in the most effective way possible. So, yeah. Any questions?
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da. Okay. Okay. So yeah, again, this is uh the structure um of the task card. So in order to make good notes, of course, you have to understand the task card, right? Làm bài gì cũng vậy, kỹ năng gì cũng vậy, môn toán, lý, hóa, văn, sinh, sử, địa, tiếng Anh, tiếng Nhật, tiếng gì cũng. You have to understand the question in order to produce the right answer. So that's why you have to look at the task card, right? Underline the keyword in the task card. So here, a person makes you laugh, right? And then after that, you will see, lúc nào cũng sẽ có những cái point như này nhá. Và những cái điểm này được những bullet point này được nêu ra ở đây không phải là để bắt mọi người phải đi theo cái trình tự như thế này. Nhưng mà nó là một cái chỉ dẫn helpful. Thế nên là you don't have to stick to this structure. You can think of other ideas. However, it's good to stick to this suggestion because it's a waste of time, you know. If you try to think of other things because những cái này là những cái pointer rất là cụ thể và rất là helpful khi mà chúng ta cố gắng nghĩ nghĩ cách để triển khai ý tưởng ở trong cái phần bài 2 này, nên là most of the time I tell my students to just stick to these suggestions, and I myself also always stick to these suggestions, and I don't try to be creative here because it's not a creative test, right? It's a language test. So yeah, focus on language. Đấy. Thì sẽ luôn luôn có ba cái, right? 3 points mà mình có thể dùng để extend ra, và cái cuối cùng đấy là ask you to give more details about your feelings or experiences. Okay? Explain how important something is in your life. Okay. Đấy, tức là thường sẽ có ba cái kiểu nhỏ nhỏ như này, và một cái là cái phần end explain các thứ như này, thì thường là đây sẽ là cái câu hỏi mà nó kiểu nó câu hỏi tổng quát ấy, thì yeah, nó sẽ nó sẽ làm sao nhỉ, nó sẽ giúp thí sinh tạo ra một cái mạch chuyện. Lát nữa when we come back from the break, so we'll have a break after this. I will give you the specific strategy in terms of how we can structure our notes, our own individual notes. But always remember that usually there are 4 points like this, and these 3 points we should talk about them for, I don't know, like 1 minute or 1 minute and 20 seconds, for example. And in this last part, right? Yeah, try to what's the word? Đây, cái phần 4 này là cái phần mà sẽ giúp thí sinh làm sao nhỉ? Nghĩ ra những cái ý tưởng mà nó chốt hạ được cái câu chuyện này, và những cái thứ mà nó hay nhất, nó đẹp nhất của câu chuyện và của cái câu trả lời của mình, xin lỗi. Nên được cho vào phần này, và đây là cái phần mà nên dài nhất đấy, thì nó nên dài tầm 40-50 giây, right? Thì well, I'm not saying that you have to follow this rule, but from my experience, it helps a lot when you try to structure your speech, because sometimes when you speak, you forget what structure you're following, and kind of lose track of time a bit. So yeah, here, kind of a rule of thumb. You don't have to follow it, but you should remember this general rule that this is going to be the part. Cả ba phần này cộng lại chỉ là 1 phút thôi nhé, nhưng mà cái phần cuối cùng nên là cái phần dài nhất để chúng ta có thể kết thúc được câu chuyện và gói gọn lại cho nó hay. So yeah, it's 40 to 50 seconds. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Khi mà chúng ta hiểu được cái task card này rồi thì chúng ta sẽ đến bước làm sao nhỉ, make notes. Thì có ba cách để take notes, rất là giống với phần listening, right? There are 3 types. usually. So the first type, mọi người nhớ nhá, chỉ có 1 phút để make notes thôi nên là chẳng có nhiều thời gian. Thì yeah, you can choose to take notes like this. So just write out the keywords that answer the bullet points, right? Or you can use a mind map. Or, well, this is the least effective one. So I never encourage my students to do this, but I put it here. So it's just as an example of how candidates might still, not know how to take notes. So you should do this. Just for just FYI. Đây là viết kiểu hẳn câu ra, không bao giờ nên làm như thế này. Dù take note trong hoàn cảnh nào đi chăng nữa. Right? Yeah. Nên làm cái này. Recommended trong cái context IELTS đấy là mình sẽ chọn ra một câu trả lời, sau đó mình sẽ ghi các cái keyword ra, và những cái từ mà mình thực sự là mình muốn nhắc bản thân là sẽ phải làm sao nhỉ, dùng ở trong cái câu trả lời thật của mình để mà impress giám khảo. Ok, và the point is that you should only write down the most important words and words that help to anchor your answers or your answer, không có s. Anchor nghĩa sao, nghĩa là từ những cái từ này chúng ta sẽ biết cách để mà nói thêm, để mà triển khai thêm những cái ý đằng sau. Đấy thì một phút là rất là ngắn mà, nên là yeah. Any questions so far?
No.
No, right?
You
Okay.
like
So yeah, let's take a 5-minute break and let's see each other again at 8:55 p.m. Okay, and then after we come back, we will practice making notes and also answering part 2 questions.